Ciao Tesla people. Today I wanted to do a video talking about something that happened online. So there is this famous YouTuber that did a video online testing the full self-driving of Tesla Model Y with a Lidar system from another company. So first let me say that the title of this video that this guy did was a bit misleading because he talked about self-driving, okay? But during the video, he never used full self-driving from Tesla, but he used Autopilot, okay? I wanted to comment on this because I discovered that this guy is an engineer. He worked for NASA, which pretty cool, nice job. The problem is that when you do a test on a software or a system, technical stuff, what you need to do is you testing versus a series of settings. Okay, so you have a software and it's supposed to have this data, and then you do a test and you expect a result, or it will give you some type of result, and then based on that result you go back and see if the test was correct, or there was a problem, or the settings that you used were good or not. Okay, that's a typical software development or system development. Okay, it doesn't have to be software. And there are actually in companies there are teams that they do just that. They do the quality assurance of tests. They write a test plan. And the test plan goes through all these steps, okay, to replicate the behavior of the system or the software, and they test against it. So this guy's an engineer, so I would expect a more accurate test. What is the test? So he wanted to compare Lidar versus vision of Tesla vision. So there are two different technologies. Tesla uses the cameras up here and around the car to detect the object and to drive the car with Autopilot and with FSD. While Lidar basically has a radar on top of the car or in other places of the car, and it detects the object on the street, and so the car drive itself. Okay, there are two different technologies. Actually, in many cases, for example, mostly in China, they use a combination of these two technologies to be able to have a car drive itself. Now, during this test, this guy didn't explain that. Actually, he said that he was using Autopilot and not FSD, which actually was the title of the video. And the test was you're driving against a wall. He put basically a wall that showed the continuation of the road. And this wall was almost a mirror. So if you look at it, looks like that the road continues. In reality, there is a wall. And this wall was made of, I guess, some type of mirroring material, and behind was a styrofoam, so to keep the wall up, and it had wires and stuff. This was one of the tests. Then he did with water, and then he did a dummy passing by. Okay, he wanted to test several scenarios. Okay. The problem is that he didn't use FSD, he used Autopilot, So he didn't show, for example, the settings that he was using. So for example, here on Autopilot, there are a bunch of settings that you can set, okay? Warnings, all that stuff. And FSD is more, they had more settings. I don't have FSD because in Europe we don't have FSD, but he was in US. Also, he screwed up by saying that the software, he said, I understand that the software is pretty much the same, which is not. Autopilot runs on, on all cars, but the software stack is very different from FSD. And actually, the FSD that was running before an Autopilot was running on version 12, which is, if I'm not mistaken, it's the version, this is for Tesla, is the version that where all the scenarios and this detection of objects and, is made by coding. Instead, in Tesla Vision, in version 13, is using AI and neural networks. So very different software stacks. And that surprised me how this guy, which is an engineer, should understand that you cannot compare, you do a test, you cannot say they are the same, because they're not. They are totally different software stack. Now, he ran Autopilot, with Autopilot, and his Tesla Model Y, which had also ultrasonic sensor in the front, which means that the Tesla Model Y was 2021, 22 maybe, something like that. It's an older version of, compared, for example, to mine. I don't have ultrasonic sensor, okay? So he was driving with Autopilot at 30 miles an hour towards this wall that looks like that there is a road behind. And the Autopilot at a very short distance from the wall disengaged, and that's because if you hold the steering wheel, it had a bunch of warnings because no warnings. He was driving with the Autopilot at a certain point, and then he reached the wall with the car driving, and of course, us humans, we are not wired to drive into the wall. So he held pretty firmly on the steering wheel, and Autopilot disengaged at like probably 3 meters, 4 meters from the wall, and he crashed into the wall. Okay. Yeah, and that's it. Instead, the Lidar car, different car, not the Tesla, he stopped. Okay. And then with water, the Tesla went through, and they put a dummy kid on the other side, so he went through and ran over the dummy, while Lidar, the car with the Lidar, is stopped in front of the water, and the water was just 2 water tanks spraying water in the middle of the road. And this road actually had 2 lanes, okay, with the 2 lines in the middle. Okay, so this is the scenario. So I don't want to get into why he did it and compare with this other company, Lidar, if it's okay or not. I don't want to get into, because the social media and people jump on it, and I don't want to. I'm just saying that this test, how he put it, he put the test case, this test scenario, and how he did it. It was pretty inaccurate. Okay. First of all, you have to show what settings you're running on it. So to be consistent, okay? And you cannot say that you're doing self-driving if you're doing Autopilot, because if you're doing a serious test, it's good to have these parameters and this disclaimer of parameters during a test correct. So you testing the same thing with different technologies, but it's the same thing, okay? So lots of people jump on it and whatever, they complain against him, and I don't care. So now another guy did a similar test, and he constructed this wall with printouts, okay? And these walls are like, so the first wall was large, probably 7-8 meters. It took 2 lanes of a road, while the second one was a bit shorter, probably 5-6 meters, maybe less, and tall like 3 or 4 meters. And actually this guy, since it was with printout on a frame of plastic pipes, behind there was a truck. So of course he didn't want to go through the wall, okay? And the printout was a bit quirky. So, and just these two, I wanted to say this so that you have an idea of the two tests were not, they were similar, but not exactly the same, okay? This guy had a Model Y with version 12 FSD. So he was running FSD, okay? And he showed a bunch of settings that he did used and stuff. So he ran the test, and the road actually was only 1 lane. There were no lines. Was, I think, through a neighborhood or something. So he put this wall, fake wall, in the middle of the road, and FSD failed. So he drove with FSD enabled towards the wall, and closer to the wall, he figured out that he didn't detect the wall. FSD didn't detect the wall, and so he hit the brakes, okay, and stopped. I think he did a few times, 3 or 4 times, something like that, which is interesting, okay? So a similar test, but one didn't tell you, it actually mislead a bit the test scenario, and the other guy, instead of showing all the data, all the settings of FSD, he used FSD, and they had a different, no, actually, they had a similar result in the sense that FSD or Autopilot did not detect the wall. And so one goes through the wall, the Autopilot guy went through the wall, and the other guy, he just brakes because the wall behind was a truck to hold the wall up. And so the conclusion of these two tests is the following, that these two Tesla Model Y on hardware 3, which has the cameras around here, in my car too, are 1.2 megapixel, run on version 12 of the software stack, does not, either Autopilot or FSD do not detect that type of scenario, wall that look like the road continues, okay? Now, this second guy borrowed a Cybertruck, and the Cybertruck runs version 13 of FSD, of the software stack, okay? And of course, it showed all the data, all the settings of FSD. He ran, again, the test. This is the second scenario where the wall was print out, was a big poster, let's say. And the Cybertruck arrived to the wall, and it stopped closer to the wall, okay? So he saw the wall. So Cybertruck runs on hardware 4. The cameras, so the sensors, are 5 megapixel, and he runs the latest and greatest version 13 of FSD, of the software, okay, from Tesla. So, looks like the older hardware have problems to detect this kind of scenario, which is a fake continuation of the road, while hardware 4 with the newer software and different version. It did good. Okay. Now, LiDAR, comparing cameras to a LiDAR. There are two different technologies. They have pros and cons. Okay. For example, a camera can be blinded by the sun. In fact, if the camera, for example, are dirty, the dirt covers the camera, you'll get a notification here that there is an issue that the camera cannot detect. And it actually tells you which camera. And I had some of this notification where, for example, I'm on a highway, I have the sun on the right side, very bright, and he blinds the side pillar cameras, okay? So I had this. While a LiDAR technology doesn't have that kind of problem, for example. But, for example, in the first scenario, he compared the Model Y to a LiDAR, a car with a LiDAR. The LiDAR stopped at the wall made of water. They were spraying water and it was pretty thick, okay? So the Model Y with the cameras went through and the LiDAR stopped, okay? Now, the scenario of the walls with the picture of continuation of the road is completely unlikely. I mean, the chance of something like that is very, very, very low. But a wall of water, we could assume that it's a scenario where you have a downpour of water and you cannot see, or you cannot see very far, okay? So it's more realistic type of test. First of all, if you went to driving school, there is a rule that if you drive, you have to adapt your driving to the condition of the road. So if there is a downpour that you cannot see, you're supposed to stop, okay? Now, this idea should be implemented in these softwares that run self-driving cars, okay? Now, the LiDAR stopped in the middle of the road. Could be an issue because you're supposed to stop on the side of the road, not in the middle of the road, okay? So in that case, yes, it stopped because it didn't see. It actually showed the video and it basically, the LiDAR sees a wall, okay? For example, it didn't see the dummy kid behind, okay? Because it cannot see. The radar bounce back. The electromagnetic wave bounce back at water when it's very... the density of the water is very high, okay? The density, I mean, the raindrops and all that stuff, okay? In fact, it has problems with the fog, okay? When it's very thick. Of course, camera do have that problem. It could be a problem, okay? So maybe there are some more thinking about that, because if you stop in the middle of the road, there are cars behind you. So, but this scenario is more realistic than having a wall that fakes that the road continues. Doesn't make any sense to me. And that's my point on saying, okay, when you test this system, yeah, of course you have a load test or extreme test to see if the system behaves like like it's supposed to. But this test wanted to trick the system, okay? In a test, there is no a real world test. In any case, on the other side, the guy with the Cybertruck with the latest hardware and software, it actually stops. Now, that is it to be seen, because the road was smaller, no lines, and the wall was a bit smaller than the other one, okay? Probably 2-3 meters, maybe more, I don't know. So it's just saying that when you do this kind of test, whatever is the system software, you need to be very careful that the parameters that you're using to do the test are similar, okay? Actually, it should be identical if you're comparing, and so to see if the system behaves the same way on to scenarios or similar scenarios. Okay, so we know that a hardware 3 with cameras of 1.2 megapixel and version 12 did not stop at this fake wall. But the Cybertruck with the hardware 4, 5 megapixel cameras, so sensors with a higher sensor, and version 13 of the software, it did stop at this fake wall. Now, I watched other videos. For example, Tesla released FSD in China, and so the Chinese went crazy on it, and they are testing bunch of different scenarios, which is pretty good because FSD, the latest version, learns by driving. You driving allows you to teach the AI different scenarios. So I saw this couple of videos where some people put like object on the road, and they had like a very small fake transparent, not transparent, it faked basically the side of the road, you know, on a lane, and actually the FSD behaved correctly. In one case, they put blocks on the road. I don't know if it were polystyrene or other material, I'm not sure. So the car drove to it, and then it just turned around. So he thought that the road was closed, which is the correct thing to do. So I just wanted to do this video to tell people when you see this test, okay? And probably this video of this famous YouTuber was more for fun, because the setup was not done correctly, in a sense that he needed to establish, okay, this are my settings, and I'm running autopilot and not self-driving, not full self-driving on this Tesla, and the parameters for this car that has Lidar are this, and we are comparing the two technologies that it should have explained before ahead. You know, Lidar has this limitation, cameras have this limitation, and they're good at this and they're good at that, so that people learn. And why it's important? It's important because we are inside the car, and we are using these systems, Autopilot, FSD, or you're driving, and you have a bunch of warnings, and you need to learn this, how the car behaves in certain scenarios, because otherwise you crash, and life are at stake, okay? So my criticism versus that video is that, yeah, it's fun to do this kind of videos and you get a lot of views, good for him, whatever, I don't care. But it's important that people learn how to use these systems, and to learn that certain system behave in a certain way, and if you have another system behaves in another way, okay? Because this system will come to the cars, all cars, okay? There is no way back. And the reason is because this system helps you to not crash the car or to kill people. You know, you're driving a car and accident happen mostly because high speed and distraction. People get distracted, okay? So, and by the way, this system are explained in the manual. So read the freaking manual, okay? When you buy a car like this that has this kind of systems, there is a manual that explain, you know, if you set this, it will do this, and you'll get this notification, it will behave in a certain way, and watch instructional videos, okay? So I just wanted to do this video to comment on this, and as an engineer, I care about this because when you start your career in engineering, that's probably the first thing that you do. You develop a system or a software, and you design a test case to test your development, okay, of software or system. And this video did not go through these steps to give you a scenario that is clear, and it says, okay, you have these settings, I'm using this system, Autopilot or FSD or Lidar, And the behavior should be like this, not like saying, oh, we don't know what is going to happen. No, the behavior should be that the car should detect a wall. It should stop this because it doesn't see that. Now, if you get a different result, okay, you did the test and it's a valid result, okay? In a sense, it's not as good, but it's valid in the sense that you can go back and change the software if it needs to be changed, or is a scenario or a test or a behavior of the car that is by design, okay? That's it. So hopefully it was interesting for you guys. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this. I'm going to post the links to these two videos so you get an idea. And hopefully people learn more about their car and this system so that they have the best experience. And, you know, these systems are made for people not to crash and get hurt. So are very important. So, on a different note, if you buy a Tesla, please use my Tesla referral. I'm going to put it in the description. And put a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, share it, and I'll see you on next video. Ciao, Tesla people.